Welcome to another episode of the Mustard Seed Buying Company's bookstore, or excuse me, thrift store, because we don't go to bookstores, thrift store, book haul review. We do go to used bookstores. New bookstores are criminal, and the publishing industry is asleep, so we don't buy from them. Welcome, first of all, because we're gonna talk about some books. Second of all of that just happened with scrolling to faded text and generative AI and all the cool shit that you need to watch. So pretend you saw it and stay. All right, today that is not the first book I'm going to talk about. Today we're going to talk about the books that I bought at the thrift store. All right, here we go. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, hardcover, clean. There's a 0%, and I mean this with all of my love. Holly Jackson, who's a very pretty lady. I'm not going to read this book. I don't know if it is a movie. Don't know if it's a TV show. It sounds like a TV show. Um, but I picked it up. My nieces love this stuff. Sometimes I make contacts and sell this stuff. Sometimes, I just like to have clean copies of books and see how they do for me. And I don't have this one. So here it is. Holly Jackson's A Good Girl's Guide to Murder in hardback. Um, this one kind of Frank Slaughter's. I'm going to throw that one right up in there. The Curse of Jezebel. Now, what do we know about Jezebel? She's some sort of lady, and people did not like her. She's not a great woman. So we'll see. Don't know if this is religious. Don't know if Frank Slaughter sounds like a horror guy. There's a cop sitting up there. Hi, cop. We'll find out. Just bought it on title alone, and for $1.50. Then I picked up Lane M. Banks. Is that Lane? Ian M. Banks. Who knows? Lane or Ian M. Banks. The Hydrogen Sonata. This actually sounds super familiar. I don't know if I've read this or heard of this or just was interested in it at some point. Bergson. No, I haven't. But it's a clean hardback. The inside of that little dust jacket's a little messed up there, but we fixed that right up. This is a must buy for $2, right? How do you pass that up? All right, then we've got The Day of the King, a novel by Bruno Frank. Don't know anything about this. It's 350 with a foreword by Sinclair Lewis. When Hitler first became perceptible as a symptomatic itch, Bruno Frank came to America, not in the panic flight, which was afterward to devastate many of his colleagues, but with a perception, remarkable even in so sound an historian, that Germany was no longer to be a home for free and honest men. Well, there you go. Fled Hitler. This next book I have read. It's one of my favorite books. It is my go-to recommendation for everybody. If you have not read it, go read it, or more importantly, listen to the audiobook, because the audiobook, not more importantly, if you could read a book, read a book. The audiobook, though, is really, really good. One of my favorite books to tell people, like, hey, if you're just trying to get into this shit, this is the way to go. And here it is. A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson. Bill Bryson is just one of the best nonfiction writers ever. Done a lot of That's my cat Natalie, as you guys know. That is he writes a bunch of travel books, most of which I haven't read. But all of his non-travel focused nonfiction I have read. He's got something on Christmas. He's got a book on the body, which is also really good. I think it's called The Body. I might have a copy of that one behind me. And this is probably my fourth or fifth copy of this book that I have currently. And just because I pick it up every time I see it. One of my all-time favorites. Then I picked up a clean edition of uh, Suzanne Collins' Mockingjay. I went to Goodwill actually for this one. There was like 8 copies of it, so I just grabbed the nicest one. Don't know why there were so many hardbacks, but if you can put all 3 hardbacks together and they're clean, you can make a little bit of money or give it away as a present. Then I picked up Noble Savages by Napoleon A. Chagnon. Chud. Chagnon. Chagologic. Chudamamani. Chagnon. That's a fucking cool name, Napoleon Chagnon. Um, My Life Among Two Dangerous Tribes, the Yanomamo and the Anthropologists. I did not see that subtitle when I bought the book, but that made me laugh. Steven Pinker says it's cool. So yeah, we're gonna read this shit because I love me some anthropology. I know Sapiens gets a bad rap. Was a fan of that. Civilized to Death, one of my favorite books. To kind of point people to, not what I think, but what I think. Then I picked up a copy of Brian Selznick. This is the guy who wrote The Invention of Hugo Cabret, Wonderstruck. I think this is a movie, not entirely sure, but it's a really clean hardback edition. I've never read it, so this is going to be something that I clip through, and I might add it into my children's library downstairs. Then the next book, this is a book from 2000. Just interested to see how much it got right. Last year, I read Amusing Ourselves to Death, a nonfiction book. I can't remember the guy's name. One of my favorite books to come across in recent years about the medium and the message. And this one seems to kind of be along the same lines, thinking ahead, how the internet is putting individuals in charge and changing the world we know. This was written before Mark Zuckerberg really realized the influence level that he had. Um, Interesting to see. I don't know anything about Andrew Shapiro. The name sounds familiar. The next book I found was The Endless Steppe, Growing Up in Siberia by Esther Haltzig. Haltzig. Picked it up just because looks like a limited release, and a lot of those limited releases do, especially of like foreigners. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Either sell or um, I just like to maintain because they're rare. This is probably a book that had 5 to 10,000 copies published in total. Could be wrong. Could be millions. But I like to make sure that we hold on to them. This next book is actually the next book that I'm going to be listening to on audiobook because I am in book 5 right now of the Chronicles of Narnia, which means that I have a copy here of The Silver Chair. Only picked it up because it was pretty clean and I was at Goodwill and I have to buy books in stacks of 6 to get one free. So I buy extra books, but this one is clean. I only have an omnibus of Narnia, and it's not. I don't even see my omnibus. Oh yeah, I do. It's not the nicest version. So I am actually looking to either build a complete hardback set of Narnia or come across one. They're pretty common, but you got to start somewhere. And the Silver Chair is what I'll be reading next. Next, I picked up a copy of Tom Clancy's The Cardinal of the Kremlin. Now, this is a first edition. I picked up. It's clean. Again, I picked it up because of my Goodwill rule. I had to get to 12 books. I picked up a copy of The Hunt for Red October. That was a first edition. That sells for anywhere from $5 to $8, typically maybe 9, 12 for a hardback. And I got 22 because it was pretty clean. Here again is a pretty clean copy of The Cardinal of the Kremlin. Don't know if this one was made into a movie, but I am keen on starting my Tom Clancy collection because I will be an old man at some point. Next, we have The Sunken Lands Begin to Rise Again by M. John Harrison. It says, simply one of the best writers of fiction currently at work in England by Robert Macfarlane, one of the very greatest writers alive by China Miéville. I don't know anything about John Harrison. I don't know anything about this book, but it's really freaking clean. Again, Goodwill rule. I add this into my anytime I find a book that I don't know, that I know nothing about, that's really clean and just pretty like this, like it's almost an instant buy for me, just because I know all of the biggest books. I don't know how to word what I'm trying to say. I know all the biggest books, all the biggest authors. I worked in a bookstore for a year, and I've been buying books for decades. And when I don't know something, I'm like, well, let me figure this out because there's either value here, or it's good, or it's something worth preserving. Then I picked up the opposite end of the spectrum, The Return of Merlin by Deepak Chopra. I bought a bunch of Deepak Chopra books once. I've never watched a video of his. I've seen him as a guest on maybe something or other. But I'm not a fan of Chopra, like particularly, but I'm not anti-Chopra either. I know he gets some flack, but this is a really clean copy of a book that probably has some of his philosophy and theology in it. So I'm excited about that. Then I picked up The Blue Jean of Babylon, Children of the Lamp by P.B. Kerr. It's book two. I do not have the first or second or first book. I have the second book, but it's a clean hardback edition. We'll throw it up on the listing, but I don't know that anything will come of it. But again, if I can find the rest of them, something to maybe add to my children's library once they're interested in it. Then I picked up a copy of Toby Mac. If you don't know who Toby Mac was, he was a musician that Jesus Freak, DC. What is Jesus? Some people call me strange. Does that make me a stranger? My bad. DC Freak? Hey, what the fuck? DC Talk. I said it right. I don't know why I was messed up. Anyway, Toby Mac has a book. He's the author. He's a singer on DC Talk and City on Our Knees. I love DC Talk growing up, so I picked it up. Don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but interested in it nonetheless. And then finally, this is a copy. I paid $11 for this on half off. So the bookstore listed it at $21, like their Barnes and Noble. Um, don't know, and it's probably just because one a-hole on eBay like me listed it at $24 that they had it listed at that price. I don't know that it's worth that, but I picked it up for 11. It's called The Chosen Highway by Lady Blomfeld. It says, once in every age, the messenger of God appears in the world to reawaken the souls of men. Are we about to learn about that messenger from this age who we don't know about yet? Weird. Uh, Time. Baha la 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 la. This is a Baha'i thing. Well, I did pick up the other Baha'i book last week there, so it's a very real possibility that that's where that comes from. Interested in finding out more. Paid $11 for a book I know nothing about. Um, Baha'u'llah. I hope that's super heretical. We're on the same side. Anyway, thank you for staying. If you made it this long, that's 13 minutes of the most boring talk of all. But these are what I'm finding at the thrift store. It's what excites me. Maybe it excites you too. If you have any questions about any of that, let me know. I appreciate your time and attention. As always, like and subscribe. No, sorry. AI blowout.